Anyone can hear it and confirm whether they can hear me well? Okay, but in the microphone, in the headset, you guys hear me well? Okay, perfect. So let me validate. Pardon, sorry?
Are you going to be talking on the microphone?
Yeah, I'm talking on microphone, but you have option. You can wear it or you can just listen it. Yeah, up to you. Let me see if, I think we are good to go. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate your time. I hope everyone had a fun night last night. So my name is Awais Khan, and I'm Cybersecurity Solutions Engineer at Cisco. So the real objective of this session is to give you an introduction on how you can create a workflow from the scratch using Cisco XDR automation for achieving different type of outcomes, mainly around customized detection and response. And for today's session, we will be focusing more on Meraki platform and its APIs. So during the session, you can also ask the questions via WebEx chat space, but I'm here after the session for any follow-up discussion. But feel free to join if you have any query during the session. So quick introduction about myself. I'm working with Cisco from last 3.5 years. And before that, I used to work with different system integrators and channel partners. But throughout my career, I mainly work with Cisco solutions and Cisco services. And on personal side, I'm a resident of Australia, living in Sydney from last 8 years with my young family. I'm a proud father of 2 lovely girls as well. And I'm missing them already, so we'll be flying back tonight straight after the event. So before I start, I want to ask 2 questions. Raise your hands if you guys are familiar with Cisco XDR by any chance. Okay. How about Meraki? You guys are familiar with Meraki dashboard? This is what I was expecting when I saw the registration list. And that's why I set up this agenda. So we are going to start with a quick introduction on XDR, followed by demo. So we'll spend roughly 10 minutes on the XDR introduction. After that, we will explore what are the built-in XDR automation capabilities, and we will then navigate to how we can bring customized automation using Meraki platform as an example for today's session. So what is XDR? XDR stands for Extended Detection and Response. So it's a SOC productivity tool or a security platform that can receive security events and raw telemetry from multiple security sensors you may have on the infrastructure. Then it applied different type of analytics to discover suspicious or malicious activities. And once it discovers, it can respond to that with the help of automation and orchestration. So that's a basic definition. Now let's understand what is the value of XDR and what value it can bring to your organization. So I'll take help from a simple example of how majority of attack work these days. So everything starts with a phishing email, right? A well-crafted email sent to a victim with a link to a phishing website or malicious website. After that, victim opened that website and then a malicious payload downloaded on the victim computer. After that, it will not only impact that endpoint, but that payload will try to do lateral movement within the infrastructure to impact all the other connected endpoints. And after that, all the endpoints will try to do lateral movement to the backend infrastructure for command and control callback. If you look at majority of the organizations these days, everyone must be having, or most likely be having, multi-vendor security controls at these different layers of the infrastructure. Challenge really here is that these multi-vendor security controls usually don't talk with each other directly and cannot share contextual information with each other directly. So let's say from this example, you are a SOC admin or SOC engineer, receives an alert from endpoint protection solution, which could be Defender, CrowdStrike, Sentinel, or Cisco. The alert is all about blocking the malicious file to get executed. Question here is that whether that single alert would be enough for you to understand the complete scope of that activity? Most likely no, right? To find out the complete scope, you have to manually navigate to multiple dashboards to find out how this attack came to the infrastructure, what was the initial vector used, how it spreads on the network. There might be some BYOD devices or unmanaged endpoints that have seen that malicious file before. And to get those answers, You have to manually correlate a lot of events. You have to manually create a timeline of all the activities. Eventually, you will get the answers, but it is going to cost a lot of time, right? And if you have these type of security solutions, you may expect to receive a lot of security noise or security events, right? That's where XDR is really going to help you. XDR, from day one, can receive security events from all these multi-vendor security sensors you may have on the infrastructure. It can also receive the raw network telemetry from the infrastructure and from remote endpoints. Once it receives that data, it applies different type of analytics to discover suspicious or malicious activity. It also do the event correlation for all the traffic coming from these security sensors. Once it discovers something interesting, let's say it finds the attack chain, it will create an incident, assign a priority based on the business impact, and then will let you respond to it with the help of built-in automation and orchestration. So this is the high-level architecture of Cisco XDR. It's a unified threat detection and response platform, basically, that can integrate the entire Cisco security portfolio and selected non-Cisco security product as well. And some of the products are listed on the left-hand side. So 3 pillars of this solution. First one is the extended context. We are getting from the wide layer of the infrastructure with the help of these different type of sources on the left-hand side. These sources send different type of data, including security events, raw telemetry, threat intelligence. It also sends user and device context. Once we receive those data, we do the event correlation. We apply different type of analytics to discover suspicious or malicious activity. Once we discover something, we will create an incident, assign a priority based on the business impact. And then we'll let you respond to it with the help of these different options visible on the right-hand side. That response options include guided playbooks. Basically, we can give step-by-step instructions on how to respond to the incident. There are some other options like automated response, where some part of the response actions can be fully automated. So in today's sessions, we will be focusing more on the response side. So time for a quick demo on the XDR, not very deep dive. Objective here to showcase some of the core capabilities. So right now I have logged into main dashboard. Here you can expect to see the summary of all the incidents and mapping of it against MITRE attack framework. In the bottom, you can also find analytics around the overall incident handling. You can create different dashboards for different security products, and you can customize it further by turning on or turning off different security events. Now let's navigate to the Incidents tab. That's where you will see a list of all the incidents with a priority score assigned next to each. So here are 2 incidents, and on the right-hand side, you can see the status, which you can change it based on the progress. You can assign the status to multiple team members you may have on your infrastructure. Now let's investigate one of the incident here. Once I click on the incident, I can see a quick summary on the right-hand side, including priority score, mapping of it against MITRE attack framework. I can also see a summary and description of the incident powered by generative AI. In the bottom, I can see all the impacted users which are part of this incident. Now let's investigate this incident further. Once I click detail, XDR is going to visualize the impact of this incident. That will help you to understand the complete scope of the attack. So here we can see that there are emails involved. There are multiple emails you can see in the middle sent to multiple users in your organization, let's say. We can also identify the victim email addresses here. We can also identify the source email addresses used by attackers. And we can also identify, these 2 are the attackers, by the way. And in the bottom, I will show you the phishing links used in that email. And after that, there were so many malicious files get downloaded, which you can see by playing around with the timeline to identify which activity happened first throughout the event. In the bottom, you can see all the assets, observables, and indicators involved in the incident. So now let's navigate to the second tab, detection. That's where you will see all the individual events that become correlated and become part of this single incident. Here in this example, more than 134 alerts are correlated. If you have to do it manually, it will consume a lot of time, right? So these can be reported by different security sources, including Cisco and non-Cisco. Response part, the most interesting one. Here we are giving step-by-step instructions on how to respond to the incident with the help of these guided steps. The first one here is the identification. That's where we are asking the SOC analyst to validate the incident details. After that, it can click on the execute button. This action can maybe open a ticket inside your ServiceNow platform, or maybe changing the status of the incident itself. Containment, second step. That's where we want to quickly isolate the threat from the infrastructure by performing these step-by-step actions. So let's say if you click contain incident assets, all these endpoints will be isolated on the infrastructure with the help of our integration with different EDR solutions, including CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Defender, and even Cisco EDR. Once I click contain asset users, these users will get blacklisted inside your Entra ID or inside your DO. You can also contain the domain URLs and IP addresses by executing these actions. It will get isolated inside your Cisco SSE solution. So a lot of response actions are here. Eradication, that's where we are advising you to sanitize the endpoints by removing the malware. And last part is recovery, where we want to unisolate the quarantine endpoint and unisolate the users. So whatever actions you performed here will get logged. It can be logged by multiple users, right? Actions can be performed by multiple users and will be reported here. Report, that's where we'll give you summary of all the incident powered by generative AI. So all the details of the incident will be listed here. So that was a quick demo. So when you turn on XDR for your organization, by default, we have 90 plus integrations available to consume. Those integrations, sorry.
You just mentioned that you can blacklist email addresses.
So those email addresses which we show, those can be quarantined, the email itself.
Just the email itself, but you can't block
We can also block this. So some actions.
the email address itself. You can blacklist.
Yeah, so depends, which email platform you are using.
Yeah.
So
Let's say we're using MS365.
yeah, there will be some actions for MS365.
Really, you can use this to block any
Yeah,
email that you.
so I have to check for email sender if there is a, so there are a lot of response actions built in, but if we find that that specific action is not available as a built-in, we can just use the API call. We can create an action. If MS365 supports that API call, you can bring that action directly to this guided playbook. So whatever actions I have demonstrated, they are already built in. Plus, you can insert customized response action. So let's say in the case we don't have the response action to blacklist the sender, we can create the response action easily, which I will show you, by the way, how to create those.
Yeah, because like sometimes you get from other people saying, hey,
Yeah.
this email address right here.
Yeah,
So do you really need to block before it gets to your
exactly. We can do that easily, yeah.
really?
So when you integrate any product, right, including Cisco and non-Cisco, by the way, those integrations can be turned on by doing simple clicks only. Once you click enable, we will ask you some API details and maybe some client secrets. And after that, product will be available to consume. And it may have all these 4 major capabilities or only some part of it, depends on which product you are integrating. So for example, if you integrate Microsoft Defender, CrowdStrike, Sentinel, or even Cisco Secure Endpoint, it will have all these capabilities. But let's say if you bring third-party firewall, which we might not fully support it, it might have some built-in actions available already for automated response. So it depends on which product you are integrating. And then you can find the complete list from the URL I mentioned in the previous slide. So again, there are so many integrations available to consume within the XDR dashboard, which can be turned on by doing simple clicks only. If you find that certain integrations are not covering all the use cases you may have, You can also import some workflows from our GitHub repository where we have so much community work done by internal Cisco security engineers against different use cases. So you can also navigate to GitHub repository to install some of the workflow. Maybe from your example, you might find some workflow already there built in. If not, you can search for repository. If you didn't find anywhere, maybe you can write your own response action, which is very easy actually. And this is what we will cover in today's session. So Meraki integration. So I know many of you are using Meraki Dashboard and Meraki MX appliances, right? We have a very special integration between these two platforms. So directly from Meraki Dashboard, if you have Meraki MX appliance, there will be an option to turn on XDR if you have XDR license. Once you turn on that integration, what will happen? Meraki MX, first of all, will start sending flow data directly to our centralized data lake. Once we receive that data, the network flow data, we apply different type of behavioral-based detection engines to discover suspicious or malicious activity. So straight away from day one, we are improving the security posture of your branch locations. After that, we can also correlate the data coming from Meraki with the rest of the data coming from different security sources. On top of that, this integration can be used for threat hunting, and there are so many built-in automated response actions available. And you can also write your own response actions for Meraki. If you are using Meraki System Manager, we can also import user and device context directly from Meraki Dashboard towards XDR Dashboard. So that's the visual representation of this integration. So on the left-hand side, you can see Meraki Cloud. When you turn on the integration, you will get the option to either turn on for all the networks or maybe on some of the networks. Once you turn it on, the net flow data will start sending towards our centralized data lake. Once we receive that data, we apply different type of detection engine to discover suspicious or malicious activity. We will also correlate the Meraki data with the rest of the data reported by different security sensors you may have on the infrastructure. Once you find something interesting, we will create an incident, assign a priority, and then we can respond to it with the help of different options. And the telemetry exchange here is direct between cloud to cloud. You don't need to require any sensors on premises. A visual representation of the previous slide. On the top right corner, you can see a screenshot from Meraki Dashboard, where you can see all the incidents reported by XDR. You can manage the lifecycle of the incidents directly from Meraki Dashboard, like changing the status or assigning it to different team members. You can further investigate those incidents by doing a cross-launch to XDR Dashboard, which can be done directly from Meraki Dashboard. Now, let's talk about the response side of the architecture. So whenever we discover an incident, or whenever you find something interesting by doing threat investigation, you can respond to that with the help of these three options. The first one is the guided one-click response action. Second one is the pivot menu. Third one is the automated response. So let's explore all these options one by one. Guided one-click response. Objective here is to give you step-by-step instructions on how to respond to the incident, right, with the help of these single-click response actions. So when you turn on Cisco XDR, you will get a Cisco Managed Incident Response Playbook that already have these built-in response actions for different security products, including Cisco and non-Cisco. The objective of those actions is to quickly isolate the threat from the infrastructure. Things like isolating the managed endpoint, isolating or blacklisting the URL, domain names, or maybe users, or performing other actions. If you find some action, or if you didn't find an action which is not applicable for your environment, you can then write your own action and insert it here directly. Pivot menu. It will be mainly used when you are doing a threat investigation. So let's say while doing threat investigation, you discover some endpoints are behaving suspiciously, and you want to take response action directly from threat investigation window. You can click on the endpoint details, let's say IP address from this example. Once you click on it, you will see all the supported response actions, including for Cisco products, non-Cisco products. So here we have response action available, let's say for ICE. If you are having ICE, this endpoint can be isolated on the infrastructure with the help of ICE integration. If you are using, let's say, third-party firewall, we can blacklist this IP address on the outbound security rule. We can also blacklist this IP address on the outbound security rule inside Meraki MX. These are built-in response actions. Plus, you can also insert customized response action, which I have done for this demo. So you can see the first one, Meraki host isolation. This is something I have created for this demo. So when you execute a workflow, either via pivot menu or via guided response action, it will basically trigger an automated workflow behind the scene. That workflow contains series of instructions. It can include HTTP calls, it can include Python script, it can include some built-in actions. So, and then this workflow will get executed in different targets. The targets could be CrowdStrike, could be Meraki dashboard, could be anything, right? So if you are using existing workflows, everything is very predefined. You don't need to create this. But if you are writing your own workflow, then you need to define the targets here as well. And these workflows can be triggered by different options, including pivot menu, including guided response action. It can also trigger by other actions like a schedule. You can define a schedule where you can define the frequency. Let's say you want to execute this workflow after every 1 hour. You can also insert a schedule, or maybe a workflow can be triggered by external webhook or via an external API request. So time for some fun stuff where I will demonstrate how you can create a workflow from the scratch for different use cases. And for today's use case, we have a situation where we got an unmanaged endpoint connected to Meraki infrastructure. Since this endpoint is unmanaged, we don't have any much detail, right? If it is a managed endpoint, we have so many built-in options available. But for that specific use case, I don't have much response action available, let's say as an example. So what I can do here is that with the help of workflow, which I'm going to create, we can isolate this endpoint on the Meraki infrastructure. To achieve the outcome here, I'm using a feature in Meraki dashboard called group policy. You guys are familiar with group policy? Have you used it before? So when a device connected to a Meraki infrastructure, it will assign with either a default group policy or a custom group policy, right? A group policy can have a layer 3, layer 4, layer 7 security rules. It might also have traffic shaping rules and some content filtering rules as well. So idea here is that you can predefine a group policy that has restricted security settings, and then with the help of API call, we can change the group policy. So basically inside the workflow, we will be doing a API call to Meraki dashboard to change the current group policy to the restricted group policy. And to achieve that, we require, first of all, the API key from Meraki dashboard. And with the help of API key, we can find out all the network IDs, right? To keep things simple, I'm using just a single network, but it can be multiple networks, right? Then we need group policy details. With the help of group policy name, which you have defined for quarantine, we can extract the group policy ID. Have you ever visited DevNet website before? Okay. So in this same website, you can find API details of Meraki. Meraki have so much comprehensive APIs for every single feature. It is available on the dashboard. Majority of the features can be controlled by the external APIs. So I'm taking help of this API called update network client policy. So with the help of this API call, I can change the group policy of any client. And to execute this API call, it requires these two parameters, network ID and client ID. Client ID here can be an IP address or MAC address. And it depends how you have provisioned your infrastructure. So let's say if you have deployed a branch office with Meraki-only devices, Meraki will track all the internal endpoints by the MAC address. But if you have a location where you got mixture of devices, Meraki might track all the endpoints by IP address. In my case, everything is Meraki, so I'm tracking by MAC address, which means to execute this workflow, I need a MAC address. So here's the logic I have used for this sample use case. So from the threat investigation window, I already discover the private endpoint, right, with an IP address. With the help of that IP address, what I can do, I can contact Meraki dashboard to find out device details associated with that IP address. Because for me, I need a MAC address to execute that particular IP. So Meraki will respond back with heaps of data, including MAC address, device operating system, and a lot of other details like where it has seen this device initially, where it was last seen. It will also tell you device operating system and device type. So in my case, I'm only after MAC address, so I can save the interesting parameters inside a JSON formatted table, which is available within XDR. So you can save that Meraki response in that table. And then with the help of MAC address, now I can make a put API call to Meraki dashboard to change the group policy. Once group policy got changed, I can post the confirmation message inside my WebEx team space. And action for WebEx is already there inside XDR automation workflow editor. So to build this workflow from the scratch, you first need to define a target. So let's say we are using Meraki as the endpoint target. So we need to find out what is the endpoint target host address of Meraki, which is api.meraki.com. Then path is /API/v1. After defining the target, you can then navigate to workflow, click on create workflow. After that, it will ask you what is the intent of this workflow. For this example, we are using pivot menu, so we will pick pivot menu. So here is a screenshot I have captured from my workflow editor, which contains series of action. The first action here is basically a get API call to Meraki dashboard to fetch the device details against the private IP address. So just to recall, I have the private IP address, but I also need a MAC address. So I contact Meraki dashboard to give me device details with the help of this API call, and then Meraki responded back with a lot of data. That response include MAC address, device description, networking details, where it was first seen, last seen, and a lot of other parameters. I will save some of the parameters inside a JSON formatted table. And now since I got the MAC address, I can make another API call to Meraki dashboard to change the group policy. I can specify the group policy name and ID inside a request body. And after that, this endpoint will be isolated. Now I can send a confirmation message inside WebEx team space by defining the WebEx room name and then the message itself. So time for quick demo on the execution of this workflow. So on the screen, you can see an investigate window that can be used for any proactive threat investigation or threat hunting. So when you put any observable here, by the way, observable here can be an IP address, URL, domain name, file hash, file name. So when you click investigate, XDR is going to query all the integrated security products to find out any communication from the internal endpoint towards the search observable. If it discovers, then it will present those findings. On the right-hand side, I have WebEx team space open, where I'm expecting a message once this workflow gets executed. And in the bottom, just to simulate the demo, I have initiate a ping towards that suspicious endpoint. After this workflow gets executed, the ping will start getting dropped. So let me play the demo. So let's say you are investigating a single URL and want to check whether your internal endpoints are communicating with that particular URL. When you click investigate, XDR is going to query all the integrated security products. And once it discovers any communication, it will present those findings in a nice looking visualized graph. So here we can see there are multiple endpoints are communicating with that search URL. Now I can click on that endpoint, an IP address in this example, and I can then perform the customized response action, Meraki host isolation. Once I perform, those series of steps will get executed behind the scenes. I also receive a message inside WebEx team space on the confirmation of this activity. After some time, ping will start getting dropped. So behind the scenes, the group policy got changed. So you can also play around with the timeline to find out which activity happened first. So now let's navigate to Meraki dashboard, where I will navigate to the group policy page. So here under network wide, there is a group policy option. The ping start getting dropped. So isolate is the group policy I have predefined, and it is affecting one client. So basically, we have changed the group policy to isolate for that particular endpoint. And here I have defined this layer 3 rule, which is blocking ICMP traffic just for demonstration, but it can be anything, right? So now let's further validate the execution of this workflow from the XDR itself. So you can actually open historical run of all the workflows that got executed by your team members. So here, let me click on View Runs. Once I go there, it will show you step-by-step execution of the workflow. So let me open the last run of the workflow. So by the way, here you can see this private IP address. It got saved in a variable, which I have used in these steps. First step here is to contact Meraki dashboard to get the device details, right, against that IP address. And then Meraki responded back with these details, including the MAC address and a lot of other parameters. I will then save these values. Oops, something is happening here. Oops. So I can save those values in a JSON formatted table. So I basically save IP, MAC, and device ID. Now with the help of MAC address, I can contact Meraki dashboard with a put API call to change the group policy. So here, I made that call, API call, change the group policy. I specify the group policy ID in the request body. And after that, I send a message inside WebEx team space. So I specify the WebEx team room name and then the message itself. So to create the workflow from the scratch, basically you need to navigate to the workflows option, and from there you can click on create workflow. You pick your best option here, in this case pivot menu for this example. In pivot menu, you have to specify the observable type, which could be IP, URL, email. You can select multiple values here. And then this is the workflow editor. On the left-hand side, there are some built-in actions available for different products, including Amazon, including ICE, third-party firewalls. So many actions are already there for different use cases. So you can do drag and drop for these actions to consume it. And you can also insert Python script, some different type of loops, and some other core logics. Also, you can also insert basic HTTP calls, which I have used inside this demo. So when you insert any HTTP call, you can define the target. You can then define the method of the API call, which could be get, put, delete, or patch, or any CRUD operation, and then request body itself. So in the previous demo, we manually execute the workflow, right? And we were doing manual threat investigation. So let's explore how we can introduce automation to those scenarios, right? So if you want to execute a workflow automatically, these are the possible options. So a workflow can be executed by itself with the help of an external email. It can be executed automatically if we discover an incident. So let's say XDR discover an incident with certain priorities. That can also trigger a workflow. A workflow could be maybe simple, could be around creating a ServiceNow ticket inside your ITSM platform. So it could be different type of workflow. It can also trigger by an external API or by webhook rule, or it can also trigger by a schedule rule. In a schedule rule, you can define the interval and the frequency, and with the help of that frequency, the workflow will get executed on a regular interval. So where I reach here, I don't know why. So time for the last use case where, oops, it's changing by itself, sorry. Maybe. Sorry guys. So time for the last use case which can be used for customized threat detection and response. A very good example on if you want to monitor certain type of threat from the infrastructure across different products, you can take help from this type of workflow, right? So what we are doing here is that we are monitoring a C2 callback from the infrastructure, and once we discover that C2 callback, we can then respond to it with the help of different options. In this case, I'm just isolating the suspicious endpoint on the infrastructure. For this demo, we are using multiple products. For internet security or to monitor command and control callback, we are using Cisco Secure Access, which is our SSE solutions. You guys are familiar with Secure Access? So it is our SSE solution, right? It can offer internet security and also secure remote connectivity, right, for your remote users. So in this example, Secure Access is protecting this branch location. It just discover and block the C2 callback from the on-premises infrastructure. Now, with the help of this workflow, what I can do here is that I can continuously poll Secure Access to discover any command and control callback. And once we discover, we can then respond to it. In my case, I'm responding back with the help of same workflow, which I have created in the previous example, where we were isolating the unmanaged endpoint. So I create a workflow, I check Secure Access on a regular basis with the help of schedule. So I define a schedule as the automation rule. And with the help of the schedule, I will do continuous query after every 1 hour, let's say. And once we discover any C2 callback, we will then isolate the endpoint on the infrastructure. So here is the logic I have used for this workflow. So basically, first I define a scheduler. In schedule, you define different options, right? When you want to execute this workflow and what is the frequency. Then as a first section, I want to query Secure Access dashboard to monitor any command and control callback. Once discover, Secure Access will respond back with the endpoint details. Then I will save those details inside JSON formatted table, and it could be multiple entries, right? Could be multiple endpoints that are communicating with this C2 callback. Then once I got those details, rest of the workflow is same which we have discussed earlier, right? Checking Meraki dashboard and then changing the group policy to isolate the endpoint. So time for a quick demo on the execution of this workflow. So on the screen, you can see a Meraki dashboard, a client policy page. So currently, the current policy of this client is protected. And after this workflow executed, that policy will change to isolate. So for this demo, what we will do, we will first manually execute this workflow, and then later we'll show you how you can define automation rule. So let me play it. So right now we are in Meraki dashboard where we can see group policy protected. Now let's navigate to Secure Access dashboard. Here we can see we discovered and blocked the command and control callback. It could be any malware traffic or malware event. Now let me manually execute this workflow. So first step here is to query Secure Access to discover those malware events. In this case, it's C2 callback. And in this example, Secure Access did discover and block that malicious traffic. It also provides me endpoint details and actual URL used in that particular event. Once I get those details, I will save those details inside the JSON formatted table. It could be a single endpoint, or it could be multiple endpoints. Then if I'm using a for loop to check against each endpoint, I want to isolate all the impacted endpoint, right, with the help of this for loop. So for loop allow me to run the same workflow against each endpoint entry. So inside the for loop, all the actions are same, which we have covered in the previous demo, like changing the group policy with the help of MAC address. So here you can see we are changing the group policy inside that for loop. We specify the group policy ID. So in the Meraki dashboard, once I refresh the page, you can see the device policy has been updated to isolate. So now let's explore how we can add the automation rule to that workflow so it can get executed automatically. So on the screen, when you navigate down within the workflow editor, you will see the option for automation rule. So here, you can define these different type of rules. I'm using schedule, and once I define schedule, I will see the option to define the interval itself, the calendar settings, when this workflow need to be executed. And after that, the workflow I have created will be get executed on a regular intervals based on the settings I'm defining here. So that's a wrap. I hope this session give you some good introduction on how you can start looking to introduce some of the automation capabilities within your network security operations. If you're planning to use XDR, you can first start with the built-in capabilities. So whatever is available as a built-in for automation workflows, you can start with that. And later on, you can start incorporating customized workflow. So once again, thanks for your time. Please don't forget to complete your surveys. Your surveys are very critical for us. Thank you.